My family, my family's birthplace home in North Alabama is 100 years old this year, and the first Carrom board that came into my collection was my great-grandfather's. And so my great-grandfather and his brothers grew up playing Carroms in the days before television and video games and all those sorts of things. And in the days prior to eBay, you would have to spend a lot of Saturdays running around to yard sales and things to find Carrom boards. But with the advent of eBay, I sort of got interested in how many different types of boards there were, and it sort of opened up. This is a great example of a hobby that was enabled by eBay and online auctions. And so that's how I sort of got interested in it. And this was in the late 90s, and sort of the collection grew from there. I probably at one time had 60 or 80 boards, and over time have given some of them away. And I'm just really excited that they'll find their way home to Ludington, where they were made, and excited to have the Historical Society take the collection. Well, I wanted them to stay in together, and these boards are not small, and you have to have a fairly big house if you want to display many of them. And so I felt, I think Ben actually helped me get connected to the Historical Society here, and feel excited to be able to make sure that they're going to be in one place and can be studied. And obviously Carrom was a big part of the history of Ludington.
Well, I started playing Carroms as a kid. You know, again, didn't have much TV. You could watch 7, 9, and sometimes 13 as a kid growing up, and everybody had Carrom boards. And my grandmother used to help knit pockets back in the day. I think they would do 100 pockets for $1, I believe, for the Carrom Company. And then when I went to college, I couldn't afford to go to the bars, so we picked up a couple old Carrom boards at the Goodwill stores and just kind of went from there, and have just played ever since.
I remember talking to him on the phone about Carrom probably 15 or 20 years ago, and there were two folks that were very instrumental in helping me get started. One was a gentleman by the name of Brian Lonsway, and the other one was a guy by the name of, I'm blanking, Gail Perkins. And so they both were super helpful when I started getting interested in that. They both lived, I think Gail lived right outside of Dayton, and so I was doing business in Dayton and got a chance to drive out and see his collection, and together we drove up to Toledo, where Brian lived. So it was like a lot of hobbies. Carrom people are pretty nice and willing to sort of help you, and they gave me a lot of advice of, you know. So I think we have about 50, I would say, and tried to only, you know, bring the best and the most unusual ones to form the collection. I remember Brian used to say there's certain common boards, like an 85 board, that you could build a house out of. You could find enough of them. So these are mostly the era of boards. Well, they're all before they started making the corners out of plastic, and are mostly, you know, I would say from the early 1900s through maybe the 30s.
Well, same kind of thing, like Tom says, they kind of get out of hand because the Carrom Company didn't keep very good records of the number and styles of boards, so you're never going to be sure you've got them all. So you're always hunting for that different board, and then there's so many other companies that made knockoffs of Carrom boards that are interesting to find. And then I kind of went into all the products the Carrom Company made, using leftover parts and this and that, you know, to try and make a buck. And I found that, and finding paperwork. I really enjoy anytime you can find an old rule book or an advertisement or something that's, you know, it's really difficult to find. You can find, everybody in Mason County virtually has a Carrom board in their attic. And again, most of them are style 85s, but you do still find some gems, and it's always interesting.
Yeah, well, we were contacted by the owner of the collection last year, roughly, talking about, would we be interested in the collection? Our collections committee viewed this, and, absolutely this has obviously significant relevance to our area and is a significant piece of history that we want to preserve. So we worked it out with them to bring the collection here all the way from North Carolina. So this has come a long way to us, and this is going to be a great place for these boards to come home to Ludington. We have over 50 of them, and we'll be looking to do a possible exhibition of the Carrom boards where people can come in and see, because there was a board we were looking at earlier that was from 1901, so there's some boards here that have longevity to them and are pretty rare and unique, and it'll be great for the community to be able to come in and see some of these pieces of history.
I've always wanted, and I wish I could find, I have a rule book and I have a Style J baseball game.
Yeah?
I wish I could find a ball and the batting mechanism.
Yeah, I remember Gail used to always say that he'd never seen it.
Yeah, so I have no idea
What
how do you play the game?
Yeah.
I have the rule book, but I don't have the mechanism.
Yeah.
And that's part of the hunt, is trying to find the parts. And the go bang men type things and all that kind of stuff. It's, and all the Carrom boards used to have a little tag on them that said the style.
I've always been partial to.
That's the most beautiful board.
That's nice.